very warm greetings to you as you join us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuluko. Last episode, we told you the first installment of the story of the Second International Tax Conference organized by the Joint Tax Board, which was held in Abuja from Thursday the 6th to Friday the 7th of October 2011. What we did in that first installment was to just merely scratch the surface because of time constraints. Editing time, the time between the end of the conference and when we had to come to you on air. And in doing so, what we did essentially was to bring you the story of the opening ceremony, which was a grand event at which the coordinating minister for the economy and Honorable Minister of Finance, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, stood in for the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. The two-day conference was indeed an intellectual feast for those who could attend. And because we appreciate your loyalty to this program, what we are going to be doing today is to begin to reward you by sharing with you the proceedings at the two-day International Tax Conference. And as time permits, in subsequent episodes, we'll bring you more and more excerpts. But before anything at all, let us quickly say that we were indeed gladdened by the hands-on approach adopted by representatives of the executive and legislative arms of government. They sat in throughout the 2 days of the conference, fraternizing with participants, chairing paper presentation sessions, sharing ideas, exchanging ideas, and at the end of the day, everybody went home more enlightened and better ennobled. For example, the Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Yerima Ngama, personally chaired the very first paper presentation session on Thursday. And on day 2, Friday the 7th of October, Senator Bassey Otu, Chairman Senate Committee on Finance, chaired a paper presentation session while his Federal House of Representatives counterpart, Honorable Abdulmumin Jibrin, chaired another one on the same day. Time well spent, if you ask me. And that is the way we want our leaders to spend their time. And on day 2, Friday 7th of October, Governor Rotimi Amaechi of Rivers State added color to the conference by personally and physically chairing the paper presentation session of paper 3 of the conference. Topic: Challenges of Tax Administration in a Monolithic Economy, delivered by Mr. Asha Pancha of the New Zealand Inland Revenue. Governor Amaechi had this to say by way of opening remarks.
Good governance comes with taxation. I hope you know that. Now, the reasons why we have corruption in Nigeria, even in our local areas, is because nobody pays tax. And because nobody pays tax, nobody has the right to ask questions about how government is governing and utilizing the money. Now, if you pay taxes, you will leave your house to the market to the governor's lord and ask him, that money you took away from me last week, what did you do with it? Is it not? But when we don't pay tax, we don't ask. It's important that we please, because of subsequent things that we have, focus on the need for people to pay taxes as a tool for good governance.
Well said. Indeed, for a very long time, it's been agreed upon that there's a strong relationship between payment of taxes and accountability, and of course, by extension, good governance. Now, for order to reign supreme, please permit us to return to day 1 and bring you an executive summary of paper presentation session 1, chaired by the Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Yerima Ngama. Paper presenter was Dr. Kabiru Isa Dandago of the Bayero University in Kano, and the topic was integrating discipline of taxation into national psyche. Professor Dandago advocated for the inclusion of taxation in the curriculum of educational institutions at all levels, and for taxation to become a course of study on its own at the university level, from bachelor's degree to PhD level. Beyond this, Professor Dandago also suggested other ways of integrating taxation into national consciousness.
In the modern world economy, it has become imperative to treat taxation as a discipline of its own for deeper understanding and intimate knowledge of the form taxation can take. It is therefore important to make taxation as a significant part of our national strategy. So to make it a significant part of our national strategy, it should be part of our educational system at all levels. When you ask many university students about the principle of taxation, they don't know that. When you ask them about purposes of taxation, many of them, they don't know. They just see taxation as a means of collecting money, and then the people collecting are the ones that will just spend the money the way they like. Many taxpayers may not even know that the tax authorities are only accessing and collecting the money for the use of government. They feel that those collecting are those that are spending, and they don't see anything on the ground. The revenue from crude oil, from solid mineral, from agricultural proceeds should not be used as the basis of maintaining government. This revenue should go for projects with long gestation period, maybe developing human capital. And probably the natural capital to be developed further using that money. And then physical capital. So that money should be used for that. But for running the day-to-day affairs of government at all levels, we have to use revenue from taxation.
At the conclusion of the paper presentation, Dr. Yerima Ngama, chairman of session, had this to say.
This one will be a PhD thesis examination. Well, actually, I asked the MC that I have to say something. He has discussed a lot of issues, but there is just one issue, which, if we embrace it, is going to revolutionize this country. And I'm happy that members of the state tax boards are all here. You know, when I was in the banking industry, we used to tell our staff that the fees and commissions we earn, something coming from our activity, should cover or must cover the operational expenses. Because the net interest income belongs to the shareholders. So any intermediation income is not your own as a staff. It belongs to the shareholders. So as a staff, you have to go and open LCs, have some advisory service, give guarantees, everything you can do to earn fees and commission, and that should cover the salary and overhead. He has given us a rule that internally generated revenue must cover the cost of running government, salaries and overhead. Let's just set our mind back before the discovery of oil, or even before the colonization of this country. The government used to be just the emir and some of the chiefs, and all their operational expenses are covered by the tax they collect, whether it is in cash or kind. So the natural thing is for taxation to cover the cost of running government, including peace and security. But today, here we are, the whole national budget, if you look at it, 74% is personnel cost and overhead. We don't have money or much for capital expenditure. I believe this is a rule we should take home and actually encourage our people to pay tax, and also encourage our governors to run slim governments.
Two eminent gentlemen discussed the paper of Professor Dandago. The first was the chief economist at the Nigeria Labour Congress, Dr. Peter Ozoeson.
Let me quickly start by saying that my reading of his paper got two major issues were what he sought to do. One, to lay the groundwork for a process that would lead to inculcating the issue of taxation in the popular psyche. And in some way, he believes that one major plank of achieving that is instituting taxation as a curricular discipline in the educational system. I think that the two things are important, but I think that they are not very related. I do not believe that teaching taxation in our educational system, whether it is from primary to the PhD level, is what will institute taxation in the popular psyche and make people love taxes. The love of taxes must come out of the contract between citizens and government. It is that contract that makes people decide whether they love to pay tax or they don't love to pay tax. And that contract is simply a two-way process. As it is said in the theory of public finance, it is a quid pro process. Government provides services, the citizens provide the taxes to finance the provision of the service. When there is a failure in that symbiotic flow, taxes cannot be popular. And I think that that is the crisis of our nation. Because government, and I agree with the professor, because our government, particularly since oil, the resource curse problem entered the economy, because the government became insulated from approaching individuals, the citizens directly, the government decided and it has proved incapable of delivering services. And because it has proved incapable of delivering services, Nigerians are not quick to want to hand over their hard-earned income in additional taxes. At a practical level, I think we can institute this into this Nigeria. I'm glad that the chairman of education, the Honorable Minister, mentioned the case of Lagos State. Let us look carefully what happened in Lagos. When Governor Fashola started this thing about internal generated revenue taxes and all that, there was a great deal of resistance. But when he started to demonstrate the delivery of services, people increasingly became more attuned to paying those taxes. Today, the same thing is happening in a couple of other states. When Governor Oshola in Edo State started the revenue drive, his chairman was around here, the problem started. There was a great deal of resistance. People, among academics, everybody. I remember the university where I'm a member of council. The academics went on strike that the tax is now too high. And I met, council delegated me because I was also an activist when I was in the teaching university. I met you and told them you are wrong. What you must do is obey the tax law, pay your normal income tax. When you have done it, hold the government accountable to deliver. If it doesn't deliver, they organize and we all will join you to ask questions. And I think that is what we must focus on if we want to develop tax in the popular psyche and to make citizens love tax. Actually, there is nowhere in the world where citizens love tax. It is a pain, but they comply based on law, based on enforcement, and based on government obeying its own side of that social contract. Having said that, Mr. Chairman, let me return to the major focus of the paper, which is making a case for instituting taxation as a discipline that must flow through our educational system. I have no problem with that. If you look back in our educational system, accountancy, that today is almost a BSc accounting in most universities. It was not always so. When I was an undergraduate, there was no BSc accounting. Because you took accounting as compulsory courses you must pass in order to obtain your BSc economics. And we did in the Bible and in various other universities. But gradually, professionalization required that discipline, that sub-discipline, which was then handled under economics, needed to grow out, and it grew out. And I think that rather than a process that would legislate a one-time institution through the whole educational system of this new curriculum and discipline, I think that the process what is happening now is the correct process. As the professor said, 2 universities have right now started that process. And I think that as they specialize and demand for those courses grow, other universities will institute their own discipline, and it will be a gradual process of institutionalization. Let us not do the usual Nigerian thing before we decree through NUC that every university must have BSc taxation, and that will lead us to another confusion that we will not be able to handle. Taxation is an interdisciplinary field. It requires law, it requires economics, it requires accountancy. All those elements can be put together to constitute a discipline as different universities think that they are ready and they have adequate demand for those proper delivery. Having said that, Mr. Chairman, because of the time constraint, let me just quickly raise a couple of issues. The issue of tax versus non-tax revenues. But I agree completely with the professor that we must strive to insulate natural resource income or windfall income from regular income and target the windfall towards specific development. It is not new. It's been done in a number of countries, in some developed, in some developing. I guess that the best case illustration of how resource should be used from natural resource is probably Norway. Norway has oil, but that is into a special fund. It doesn't enter the annual budget. In Africa here, Botswana, well, it's not oil, but it was also the natural resource issue, actually has a constitutional and legal process that insulated the natural resource income from diamonds and other natural resources from the regular other sources of income. And what it did was to say a given percentage of that fund can be drawn on annually as passed by Parliament for investment. That is capital investment. Not for regular government consumption that we are now just consuming everything. So I think that there are these models that we can call. But the point I just want to make, Professor, is that it is not the necessary distinction between tax-based expenditure and non-tax-based expenditure. Because even the natural resource that we're talking of income is a tax-based expenditure. The greatest proportion of our oil earning comes from petroleum profits tax. So it's a tax income. So in terms of appropriateness and correctness, we need to define a different term. It's not distinction between tax-based or non-tax-based, because even the natural resource income is collected on the basis of tax law and on the basis of taxes.
That is an academic and a trade unionist rolled into one. What did you expect? My lips are sealed. And by the way, that second part of his intervention on keeping aside excess money or the earnings from crude oil, isn't that something on the Sovereign Wealth Fund? I think the governors must hear this. The second discussant was Barrister Ogbediagbo Kelechi, who represented Alhaji Idi Farouk, Director General of the National Orientation Agency.
Social justice is a two-way proposition. For us to achieve social justice, look, you must pay your dues, you must pay your tax. Why you expect the government to deliver social amenities or even to start the road leading to your place? If you don't pay your tax, if you don't pay your dues, I wonder where the resources will come for the road leading to your father's compound to return. It is a two-way oscillation. It is swings and it is war. And the earlier we understand it is that way, the better for us. And that is the way forward.
Well said. It's a two-way affair. Like they say, obey before complaining. Pay your taxes and then hold the leaders accountable. Well, the second International Tax Conference was indeed the second in the series to be organized by the Joint Tax Board, but the fact remains that it coincided with the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the Joint Tax Board. And so on this episode, and as the weeks roll by, we'll be bringing you the thoughts of stakeholders on JTB at 50. We serve you two today. JTB is 50 and we're celebrating. How does that make you feel?
I feel so satisfied because if you recount the achievements of JTB since its inception in 1961, you can see that JTB has not just only come a long way, JTB has come with a lot of achievements, which are very manifest in the administration of taxes in various parts of the country. And from the eloquent testimonies given by participants in the International Tax Conference we heard, which incidentally coincided with the celebration of the 50 years anniversary of the JTB, you can see that people are satisfied with the administration of JTB and the achievements of JTB so far.
In what ways have the activities of JTB impacted on your core mandate as a revenue generating agency for Ebonyi State?
In many ways. One of the core values or the achievements of the JTB is the uniformity in tax administration. So that has helped a lot because the taxpayers know the type of taxes they're supposed to pay, the way the tax is supposed to be administered, so that when you want to collect this tax, it helps to reduce the resistance from the taxpayers. And also, the taxpayers are now being made to understand that they should also ask for the value for their money. So these are some of the things that the JTB has been trying to do. So it rather makes the work of tax administration, tax collection in various states very easier.
Now JTB is 50. How does that make you feel?
I feel great. Whatever you are doing, if you are 50, that means you have reached the age of maturity. And JTB at 50 had reached the age of maturity. And any organization that is in existence for 50 years must have achievements and also failures. However, in respect of JTB, sincerely in the last 50 years, there has been a lot of achievement and advancement, especially in the field of taxation. So I am really grateful. I feel happy that today our own organization that I belong to is 50 years old, and we are celebrating it. If you look at it from my own state point of view, my state has benefited a lot from the activities of JTB. For instance, in the last 8 years or 7 years, the JTB has been very, very vibrant in capacity building. Quarterly, we have different courses. We have the intermediate course, we have the senior inspectors courses, which I have been sending my staff. At least 30 of my staff have benefited, and I can see it from the work they have been doing. The courses they have undertaken through the JTB courses have helped us to improve our collection and also the way we do things. And also, not only that, in terms of harmonization of taxes, you see issue of number plates, driver license, and vehicle particulars. These have been harmonized through the JTB. Because even though because of the JTB, you will find that different states will be charging different rates, and we are in the same country. So therefore, JTB has done enough here by ensuring that whatever guideline given is strictly adhered to by all the states. And thank God that most of the states, almost all states, have been adhering to the guidelines issued by the JTB. That is in terms of standardization of rates.
Once again, we most sincerely congratulate the Joint Tax Board on its 50th anniversary, and we also want to thank you viewers for keeping faith with the program. See you around next week.